I've spent the last year obsessing over productivity, so I decided to make a full course and break down everything I know so you can stop procrastinating, become insanely productive, and make more progress in the next 12 weeks than you usually do in 12 months. Let's get straight into it.
This first module will help you figure out your life vision. So if you have no idea what you want to do right now with your life, then this is going to help you. So this first section, how anyone can define their long-term vision in under 10 minutes. Now, before we start, I'd just like to get 3 things out of the way. First of all, I don't believe in the idea of an ultimate purpose, the reason you were put on this earth for. If you wait to stumble across that purpose, then you're going to wait a very long time. The second thing is your vision is going to change. Okay, so this is something you need to consider. Right now, you don't have access to all the information you need about the world, about yourself. So of course, as you learn more and more, as you progress through life, your vision is going to change, and that's okay. You just need something right now. You need to start moving. The third thing is what we're after here is not a clear step-by-step plan on what you need to do for the next 10 years. What we're after is a general direction. So you need to go east. That's all we can hope for, honestly, and it's more than most people have. So let's get into it. First of all, we're going to use the I know that method. Let me explain it real quick. With a list of statements that start with I know that, we can actually figure out your life vision. These statements that I'm going to help you find in a few seconds start with I know that and end with an outcome that you are very clear you want right now. Like there's just no doubt in your mind you want this thing. For example, I know that I want children. Okay, so this is one example of a statement. So I'm going to make your life very easy right now. I'm going to show you a very long list of statements that start with I know that. Different categories. I'll either put a link that you can click somewhere and have access to a document where you can see it, or I'll just put it up on screen right now. Go through the list and pick 5 statements at least. So 5 statements that you look at and you are drawn to them. And this is important. These statements should feel true to your core, right? It's not like, oh, I know that I want to live with integrity. Yeah, integrity, I think that's important, right? I should probably aim to, no. It's not like, yeah, it would be nice to travel. I know that I want to travel the world. Yeah, that'd be cool. No. You need to look at and feel like this deep conviction towards these statements. Like, yes, I look at this thing and I'm like, I want this. Like, I need this. I'm going to strive for this. So that's why it's important to pick them properly. At least 5. If you're curious, this is my list. So I know that I want children. I know that I want to marry, build a business, become financially free. There's a bunch here. So grab your list. So you picked a few from my list. You can even find your own. It doesn't matter. You need at least 5. Grab that list, put it in a Word document, and copy paste it into ChatGPT with the following prompt that you should also have access to in the document that I've linked. So here's the prompt. Quick interruption. Our friend here, Jacques, was kind enough to send me a different prompt for this step of the module. So here it is. Don't use the old one. Well, I've actually removed it. Here's the list of I know that statements, and you've got the prompt right here. So just put your list down here. Boom, just download this document and then send this over to ChatGPT. He's basically an AI professional genius, so this is going to be a lot more effective. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to put it into ChatGPT. Here's where you put your list, right? So let me go grab mine. Boom, we grab this. We put it into this little box. Here you go. Send it. Okay, so what does he have to say here, ChatGPT? Ideal day. I wake up early without hitting snooze because I actually want to start the day. Sounds cool so far. My body feels strong and healthy from the work I've put into training and eating well. Of course, I get a quick workout in, something intense that pushes me a bit out of my comfort zone. It's hard, but I feel alive. Now, I would not work out first thing in the morning. I'd rather just work on my business and then work out later. And that's the thing. You can change these little details right here if you're not completely satisfied with what ChatGPT tells you. After my morning routine, I sit down to work on my business. Yeah, it's mine, something I'm building from the group, blah, 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 blah. At some point, I talk roughly with someone I care about. Maybe it's my partner, maybe it's a close friend. It'd probably be my wife at that point. In the afternoon, I carve out time to learn something new or improve skills. Sounds pretty cool. Because I have to, because I want to, right? So this ideal day, that's your life vision. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Right here, the misaligned day, also very interesting. This is literally the opposite of what I want based on my I know that statements. So again, look at what ChatGPT told you. If there's anything missing, if there's anything that are not quite are not quite aligned with what you really want, then just change it out, right? Change the few details and keep this somewhere, okay? Because guess what? Let's go back here. Your ideal day and misaligned day, that's your life vision. More specifically, you now have your vision, your ideal day, and your anti-vision. You know what you're running towards and what you're running away from. You should look at your ideal day once you've modified it to your liking and think, this sounds amazing. Like, I want this. You should look at your misaligned day and think, this sounds like hell. There's no way I'm ever going to end in that position. So take action, guys. Pick at least 5 I know that statements from the list I provided, paste them on a blank document, copy paste that list into ChatGPT using the prompt I showed you, and ask him to create an ideal day and a misaligned day based off the statements. Welcome back. This is the second section of the Ultimate Clarity Blueprint. How to avoid choosing the wrong path and guarantee your life vision aligns with your true desires. So this is, to me, kind of a two-part problem, if you will. So first of all, the question of choosing the wrong path. How do we avoid that? So look at your current life. Look at your job, your relationships, your health, your habits and behaviors, and really ask yourself, if I change nothing about my current situation, what will my life look like in 5, 10 years? If your current life is not leading you to your ideal day, your life vision that we figured out in the last section, then you're on the wrong path. So, as an example, if you say, one of your I know that statement is, I know that I don't want to feel trapped in my lifestyle. But you're planning, first of all, on staying in your 9-to-5 job that you currently don't really like. It's just paying the bills. And you're also planning on getting kids, like in the next few years, okay? Can you not see how, fast forward 5, 10 years from now, you could feel trapped in your job because you have to provide for your kid? Or you can't change careers because it's too risky. You're forced to go through hours of traffic every day. If your current situation is leading you to the opposite of what your I know that statements basically entail, then you're not on the right path. So for each of your I know that statements, write how your current life is going to lead you there someday. As an example, if you want to be financially free, then you could write things like, well, I'm reading 1 hour every night on a high income skill that I want to master right now. You could write, I'm developing a product for a business. If you can't find anything related to financial freedom, then you're on the wrong path. Now, the second part of this, making sure your life vision aligns with your true desires. This is kind of a separate thing. So what we need to make sure of is that your I know that statements come from you. Okay, so look at your list of I know that statements and really ask yourself, do these statements come from me, or can I trace them back to my parents, society's expectation? You need to make sure your life vision comes from you, and this can be hard to figure out. Let's say you wrote, I know that I want to be a doctor, and in your ideal day, you're a doctor. It looks amazing. Now, Are you in love with being a doctor, right? The day-to-day of being in the medical profession. Helping people, long hours, being selfless, working in a hospital, or is it because your parents have always told you you need to become a doctor? You're going to become a doctor. And it's just about getting approval from your parents. You need to make sure it's not from approval from your parents, right? Because we all know that a life chasing validation will not lead to fulfillment. Any statements that does not come from you, your deepest core, must be removed from your list. So, take action, guys. For each of your statement, write down how your current life is someday going to lead you there. Then really ask yourself where they come from. If you can trace any statements to societal expectations or your parents, then remove them. Here's the final section of the Ultimate Clarity Blueprint. How to stick to your long-term vision. No more changing your mind or getting distracted. So you've got your vision now. How do you stick to it for the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 3 years? I did say your life vision could change. That's not exactly the point here. Whatever your life vision is, how do you make sure you continue to work on it year after year? It needs to become part of your identity. That's how you stick to it long term. Now, you keep hearing things about identity. Make it part of your identity, right? Identity is not just your beliefs, your thoughts, what you think about yourself, right? Try telling yourself that you're the CEO of a $100 million company for 100 days straight. See what happens. Identity is simply the list of things you do and the list of things you don't. So if I tell you that I train 5 days a week, that I eat clean, that I don't drink alcohol, and I don't eat McDonald's, did I not just describe to you a part of my identity, right? It's just about what you do and what you don't. So when I tell you that you need to make it part of your identity, it just means, okay, you need to figure out what habits and behaviors you need to do on a regular basis and which ones you need to avoid in order to reach your vision. That's what making your life vision part of your identity means. It means aligning your day-to-day, your daily, weekly habits to that life vision. So if you look at your weekly schedule and you struggle to find 3 things that will one day help you reach your life vision, and on the contrary, you can easily find like 10 things that have nothing to do with your life vision, then it's not part of your identity and you will not stick to it long term. So, take action here, guys. Look at your week and list the 8 things that take up the most amount of your time. Obviously, don't include chores, eating, shower, right? Whatever everyone does. Commute. Ask yourself which ones align with your ideal day and which ones don't. If you can sort out this list by removing what doesn't and adding things that do, then your vision will become part of your identity and you'll stick to it long term. So, here's what I did. This is my list. The most time-consuming thing for me is just my job. So I work 30 to 40 hours. Then YouTube/business for about 20 hours. I spend about 15 hours with my girlfriend. I spend about 5 hours in the gym working on my health and fitness. I spend about 5 hours reading. About 4 hours on just entertainment, watching YouTube recently. And then on average 1 and 2 hours with time with family. I couldn't even name 8 things here, honestly. My life is very boring and simple. But what I learned from making this list is that, you know what? My identity is pretty damn aligned with my life vision. Most of these things, right? Work, YouTube, business, girlfriend, fitness, reading, they can one day lead me to my ideal day, my life vision. So if in your case, you spend 15 hours on gaming per week, 15 hours, 20 hours on Netflix, unless you want to become a esport professional, then I would tell you that your identity right now is not aligned with your life vision. You need to make sure the bulk of your time is going towards habits and behaviors that will one day help you progress towards your ultimate goals. And that is the first module done. So right now you should have a clear vision for now, a general direction that you can start walking in. The next step is figuring out, okay, what goals now do I set aligned with this life vision? And that's the next module. See you there. Welcome to the second module, the Unstoppable Goals System. So at this point, you have a vision we figured out in the last module. And we're going to learn how to turn that vision into specific goals that we can actually act on. So how to turn your vision into specific goals in under 15 minutes without feeling overwhelmed or lost. So here it is. So I'm first going to go real quick over what we're going to do, and then we're going to go over a detailed example so you really understand what I'm saying. So first of all, pick one of your I know that statement, any one of them. Write down how you could reach that outcome. So what are the things that you would have to do in order to reach the outcome of your I know that statement? And then go one layer down and write specific actionable things that could be done for each method. I know it's not super clear. Let's go into the example. I know that I want to be financially free. That's what we're going to use. You probably have the same thing, to be honest with you. What could be done? You could learn high income skills. Okay. You could also save more money. You could do that. You could start a business. Preferably you do all three. But those are all ways to reach financial freedom. You can name a bunch more. Doesn't matter. For today's example, we're going to keep it to 3. Then you go down one layer because these are not very actionable. They're not very specific. We're going to fix that. So the third layer is, okay, learn high income skills. What specifically? You could learn sales. You could learn public speaking, editing, copywriting. There's a bunch. Save money. More specifically, you could spend less on groceries, right? That's specific. You could make a budget. You could do a lot more. Start a business. What kind? You could sell a course. You could do personal training. You could sell products online. The list goes on and on. So at this point, you should have like a tree starting from your I know that statement that you chose and then going down and kind of expanding to a bunch of things that you could do, specific things that you could do to reach the outcome. So at this point, you're going to pick one thing in the third layer and you're going to turn it into a goal using the smarter goal system. So we're going to go with sell a course. That's what we're going to choose. So here it is. S stands for specific. Your goal needs to be specific. Otherwise, you can't act on it. So in my case, sell a course on how to wake up every day with a clear plan and follow through on it. No more wasted time or broken promises to yourself. That's the course you're watching right now if you haven't noticed yet. M stands for measurable. You need to be able to measure your goal. So sell 10 courses. A stands for actionable. So making your goal actionable really just comes down to avoiding verbs like be, have, etc. Vague verbs like that. Instead, use write, train, work. So instead of saying be more active, which doesn't actually mean anything, you could say walk 10,000 steps per day. To be honest with you, if you made your goal specific in the previous steps, then this is probably a bit redundant, right? Because it's probably already actionable, but let's still keep it in. R stands for risky. Usually, with the SMART method, it stands for realistic. Screw that. With the smarter method, the R stands for risky. So the reason we want to set risky goals instead of realistic is because with realistic goals, you're going to leave a lot on the table. Why? Because effort and performance match the goals we set. They match the difficulty of the goal. So by setting ambitious and risky goals, your mind, your body are going to give you the energy that you actually need to achieve it. Unlike setting a small, easy goal that you can for sure achieve, you're going to leave a lot on the table, like I said. So in my case, I'm going to sell 100 coursework. We're going to bump it up to 100, and if I don't, I'm going to give $200 to my girlfriend. That's risky. That's ambitious. It's perfect. So the T stands for time bound. There needs to be some type of time element involved in your goal. To make your goal time bound, you can use deadlines, start dates, durations. It all depends on the type of goal you set. So if your goal is to save 70% of your income and invest it in the S&P 500, it wouldn't make sense to set a deadline. It would make sense to use start dates, duration. For example, you're going to save 70% of your income invested in the S&P 500 by Monday, right? Starting Monday for 180 days. That's time bound. In my case, I'm going to use a deadline. Sell 100 courses before the end of the year. Perfect. Exciting. Your goal needs to excite you. You need to feel an intrinsic motivation to actually achieve the goal. You're much more likely to stick to it. If, for example, you hate weightlifting, but again, it's January, so I gotta go to the gym, and then you set the goal of going to the gym 4 times a week. That's not gonna work out because you don't like weightlifting. That goal is not exciting to you. You need to enjoy the process. That's the only way to follow through on it long term. In my case, the idea of selling a course on a topic that I'm genuinely interested in sounds amazing, so I'm good there. R stands for relevant. So your goal needs to be relevant to your life circumstances, to your values, to your other goals. Okay? So if, for example, you're a 21-year-old who sets the goal of getting kids in the next 2 years, but you don't have a girlfriend, and you also have the goal of becoming financially free, which means you're gonna have to work like an animal in the next 10 years. Does it make sense to set the goal of having kids? No, it doesn't. It doesn't align with your current life circumstances. Setting that type of goal does not make sense in the season of life you are. And that's what relevant means. In my case, at the beginning of the year, I set the goal of getting 10 clients for my new at-home personal training business. Then I realized I'm working full-time. Well, not at that point. I was working part-time. I was going to school as well. I have this YouTube channel. When do I have time to actually work on this business? It wasn't relevant to my life circumstances and my other goal. I had to remove it. So here's the final result. We went from sell a course, and then using the smarter method, we turned it into make 100 sales for my course on how to wake up every day with a clear plan and follow through on it. No more wasted time or broken promises to yourself before January 1st, 2026, or else I have to give my girlfriend $200. Beautiful. All right, take action, guys. Pick one of your I know that statement, write a few ways to reach that outcome, write specific actionable things for each method, pick one of those, and use the smarter system to turn it into a goal. Welcome back to the Unstoppable Goals System. Here's the second section. How to set goals even if you have no idea what you want, using a foolproof goal discovery process. So at this point, this shouldn't actually be a problem because if you went through the first module, you should have a life vision, right? You should know what you want to do. If you still don't, no panic. I've got a little method for you, a little solution. I've got 3 questions for you. What interests you right now? What frustrates you about your current life? What skills or areas are you even slightly curious about? So I want you to come up with a bunch of answers for each question. Pick a few answers out of your list and turn them into small goals. So for example, if you said that your poor physical shape is frustrating you right now, you could set the tiny goal of walking 15 minutes per day, every day for a week. If you're interested in astronomy, you could order an astronomy book and set the goal of reading 50 pages. What you're doing here is exploring, because the reason you still don't know what you want out of life is because you either haven't explored enough of the world or you don't know enough about yourself. So by setting and achieving a bunch of tiny goals related to different aspects of life, you're going to get a better idea of what you actually want to achieve. And once you know what you want, you'll be able to set more long-term goals. But for now, stick to these small exploratory goals. So, take action. Answer the 3 questions. Pick a few of your answers and set small, easy to achieve goals related to each. Welcome back to the Unstoppable Goals System. Section number 3, how to set goals that you'll actually follow through on. No more empty promises or wasted potential. So there's 2 ways of following through on your goals. The first one is very practical. You need to write down your goal, right? Countless studies have shown that writing down goals increase dramatically the likelihood of achieving them. So don't argue with me on this one. Next, you need to stick it to your wall, okay? I can't even tell you how many people tell me they have this goal, and then 2 weeks later I ask them, how's it going? How's the goal going? And they just go like, oh yeah, not really had time, blah, blah, blah. They literally forget about their own goal, right? It's very easy to just say it, I want to do this thing, and then go back to your old routine. By writing it down and putting it on your wall, like I did, focus and execution, 100 sales, you're not going to forget about it, right? You're going to be reminded every day and you're going to be kept accountable, okay? So it's very important to stick it on your wall. Much more likely to follow through. The second one is more related to your mindset. Setting goals that you'll follow through on and that you'll actually stick to means completely removing any other alternative. Look at the source of your goal. If you use my method, this should be one of your I know that statement, right? That's what we started with. So in my case, I know that I want to be financially free. That's where my goal comes from. There will never be a reality where I don't reach financial freedom, where I'm forced to go to work on Monday, where I work paycheck to paycheck. That's never going to happen. I once told my friend, if I ever get trapped in a 9 to 5, I'm literally grabbing my backpack, I'm going to Europe, and I'm just going to wander the streets until I starve or something. It's extreme, but this is just to illustrate how disgusted I am by the regular life. So do you think it's hard for me to stick to my goals that are related to financial freedom? No, it's not. It's not, because it's my only choice. There is no other option. And this is the mentality that you need to adopt. So look at the source of your goal. Can you imagine a reality where that is not the case? If you can, then your motivation is shallow. You're not going to follow through on your goal. If you can't, possibly imagine an alternative, a reality where the outcome of your I know that statement is not reached, then your motivation is deep and you're going to stick to it long term. Now go ahead and add that statement, the I know that statement, to your paper on which you wrote your goal. Okay, so that's going to fuel you even more and push you to follow through on your goal. If you need to, you can even add what that statement means to you. For example, financial freedom means no boss. It means not having to go to work on Monday. It means no traffic. I can go wherever I want anytime. No money stress. Okay, so take action, guys. Write down your goal and stick it on your wall. Find the source of your goal and reject any life where that outcome is not reached. Add the source of your goal to your wall. Welcome to the third module of Focus and Execution course. This one is the Effortless Action Blueprint, which is all about figuring out what to actually do. So now you have a goal, you have a vision, you have a goal, but now you're looking at your goal and saying, okay, what do I do now? Where do I start? So in this first section, I want to discuss how to eliminate confusion and procrastination by using a proven task mapping method that keeps you moving forward. So we're going to figure out what task will lead you to your goal, will help you progress. So look at your goal right now and ask yourself, what's a few things that someone could do to actually achieve this? In my case, make 100 sales for my course on blah, 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 before January 1st, blah, blah, blah. Okay, how do you sell 100 courses? Well, first of all, you need to know enough about the subject. I need to know enough about productivity. I need to write, record, and publish the course. Obviously, I need to produce it. What else? I need to market the course. So people need to know about it or else they're not going to buy it. What we're looking for here are verbs like write, read, watch, research, call. Very actionable verbs, something you could do right here, right now. For example, on this first layer, I've got one right here. Write, record, and publish the course. I could act on any of these. I could go write a course. I could go record a video right now. Very actionable. On the other hand, know enough about the subject, market the course. I have to do those things, but they're not actionable. I can't right now learn more about the subject. It's too vague. Okay, so what does it mean to know enough about the subject? Let's go into detail. It means reading the topics. So to know more about the subject, I need to read books about productivity. I could do that. I could experiment with different productivity tactics. Just try them on my own, in my own life, and see what works, which will give me experience and be able to better teach it. Okay, market the course. Well, I could create YouTube videos. Perfect. Again, not specific enough. Create YouTube videos. What specifically? How do you create YouTube videos? You research, you script videos, you edit, right? These specific actionable things. Now we're talking, okay? So right here, these are the tasks that in my case will get me closer to selling 100 courses. These are very actionable tasks. So if you've followed along with your own goal, you should have a list of tasks that will help you progress. You just need to choose one and start working on it. So take action, guys. Turn your goal into tasks with clear verbs of action. Welcome back to the third module, the effortless action blueprint. In this second section, we're going to discuss how to break any goal into simple daily steps so you always know exactly what to do next. So what we're going to do in this section is turn our task that we found in the last section into habits. We're going to try and be specific. So again, in my case, these were the tasks that I figured would help me progress toward my goal. And the reason we want to turn those into habits is just because of the power of habits. You do things every single day, it compounds into progress towards your goal. And so that's why we want to turn these tasks into daily habits. So for example, I'm going to read about the topics. That was one of my tasks here. So let's turn that into a habit. Read 20 pages per day for 60 days. Perfect. Research video ideas, script a video. Basically produce YouTube videos for at least 1 hour per day before work. Perfect, that's a habit. Write, record, and publish the course. Produce the course. Okay, I'm gonna write 1 module per weekend. So you see how we took these tasks that are essential to reach the goal, and we converted them into specific habits that we're gonna reproduce every single day or every week. Now, once you have these habits, you're gonna put up a habit tracker, and you're gonna stick it on your wall. If you don't know how to make a habit tracker, you can simply go on YouTube. You're gonna find a bunch of guides that will help you. You wanna grab these habits that we just created, and you wanna put them on a habit tracker that you will see on a regular basis. It's so easy to say, I'm gonna do this thing every single day, and then just forget about it. So with a habit tracker, you've got it on your wall, and not only are you reminded of the habit every single day, right? You're kept accountable, but you also get that satisfaction of checking off the box every single night, which will help stay consistent because you get that little spike of dopamine. So take action, guys. Turn tasks into specific daily habits and put up a habit tracker. Welcome back to the Effortless Action Blueprint. In this final section, we are going to discuss how to stop overthinking and start taking action using the no-fail momentum hack. So at this point, you've set a goal, you've turned tasks into daily habits, and now you're ready to work. But you're looking at your habit tracker, and for example, it says write for 1 hour a day, and then you start thinking, okay, what do I write about? Where do I start? How do I even know what I'm talking about? Is this good enough? Slow down. Here's how you start. So what you're gonna do is pick the easiest task first. So in my example, instead of writing the first module, okay, I wanted to build a course because I want to sell 100 courses, right? So I need to build it. Writing the first module could be the first step, but it's honestly pretty scary, or at least it was at the time. Choosing that task to start with, to start the whole process, would have been very intimidating. So here's what I did. First of all, I read $100 million offers by Alex Ramirez because my course is an offer. So I got to learn how to present this offer. So I ordered the book. It wasn't hard for me. I like reading, and I had been hearing of this book for a while. So it wasn't difficult for me to start this whole process when that was the first step. Then what did I do? I created the offer by applying the principles that I had learned in that book. Pretty easy. Then what I did was I just named each module, right? So I figured out I wanted to make 10 modules, and I gave each one a name. And I used ChatGPT. So do you think that was hard for me to do? No. Now at that point, I had built a significant amount of momentum from taking quite a bit of action towards my goal, and I had built confidence. So it was easier at that point to finally write the first module because I already done a bunch of things, momentum had been built. So take action, guys. Pick the easiest tasks first, use them to build confidence and momentum, and move on to the hardest ones. Welcome to the fourth module, the Bulletproof Daily Planning System. First of all, I want to say congratulations for making it this far. You are now at the fourth module, so you've done the first 3, and I just want to say good job, keep going. In this section, we're going to discuss how to create a focused daily plan in 2 minutes or less, so you hit the ground running every morning. So at this point, you've got a goal and we've turned it into actionable steps. And what we want to do in this module is grab these action steps, these habits, and incorporate them into a daily schedule. The first step to this is all about planning your days. Now, if you're anything like me, you don't want to spend 15 minutes planning every single minute of your day on a Google Calendar that you don't even end up following because of unexpected things. So instead, here's a 2-minute daily planning method that will allow you to be super consistent and effective in the pursuit of your goals. So we're going to use two tools here, the habit tracker and the to-do list. So we've already discussed the habit tracker, but it is a daily reminder of the habits and behaviors that you should be doing. So on your habit tracker so far, you should have the things that we discussed last time, right? The habits that will get you closer to your objectives. But you can also use the habit tracker for habits that are not exactly related to your goals, but that can still improve your general health, your well-being, right? So things like meditation. Journaling if you're into that. It could be complimenting your girlfriend. It could be going to the gym if you struggle with that. Anything that's related to your well-being. Habits that you want to do on a daily basis and that you just need a little reminder to do. On top of that, we're going to use the to-do list. And this is the bulk of my planning is through the to-do list. The to-do list is used for specific tasks related to the actions that you determined will get you closer to your goals. So remember, those actions are right here. It's in the last module. You should have the list of actions that will help you progress towards your goal. Now, the difference between the habit tracker and the to-do list is, yes, on the habit tracker, we turn these actions into habits. For example, I want to read 20 pages per day. I'm going to work on my business for 1 hour, right? Things like that, these habits. But these are not specific. They're not specific tasks. That's where the to-do list comes in. So, okay, you've set the habit, you've committed to the habit of working on your business for 1 hour per day, but each and every day, what are you going to do specifically? And that's where the to-do list comes in. So let me show you exactly what this looks like in practice. So this is one of the tasks that I determined would get me closer to my goal. Basically just everything involved in the production of a YouTube video. On a to-do list, here are examples of things that I would write related to that. Find 2 new video ideas. Finish editing the visuals of a video, right? These are specific tasks. I can literally wake up one morning, look at my to-do list, and boom, get to work on that. Now, also write things that require time or effort from you. So obviously, you don't just work on your goals in your everyday life. You also have responsibilities, right? You got to take care of your health. You have relationships to maintain. You have a job. You have school, right? So on your to-do list, you're going to have to put your 8-hour shift, obviously. You're going to have to put a 3-hour meal prepping session, right? Don't write things like chores that take less than 30 minutes. You don't need to add those. If the gym requires effort from you, then put it on. In my case, it doesn't, so I'm not going to put it. Again, things that require effort or a significant amount of time from you. That being said, if for a few days in a row, you don't see anything related to your goals on your to-do list, right? It's just these random ass responsibilities, it's your job, it's studying, then you've got a problem, right? Remember, the main priority of your life, if you're anything like me at least, and I think if you're watching this course right now, you are, is your goals, right? So you've got to do these other things. You just have to. These are responsibilities. But at the core of it, you should always have these tasks that help you progress. And if you don't see any for a few days in a row, you need to adjust. Last thing, your to-do list, you guys probably expected this at this point, should be visible on your wall. You might be able to see it right there. Right? I've got a little whiteboard. That's what I use for my to-do list. You could use a piece of paper. Honestly, just use a whiteboard because you can easily erase it every day. And I can just look at it whenever I need to, a little reminder of, okay, what's the next task? I just look at it and boom, I'm reminded. I'm kept accountable, as always. I put a lot of stuff on my wall. I don't want to forget anything, okay? It's right there in my face. Now, why not on your phone? Well, first of all, we don't need more reasons to spend time on our phones, let's be honest here. And also, again, it's easier to see. I don't need to check my phone every 10 minutes to see what I have to do. It's right there, okay? So use a physical object like a whiteboard to make your to-do list and put it up on your wall. So, take action, guys. Each night, make a to-do list of specific tasks tied to your goals. Use a habit tracker to stay consistent with daily behaviors. Welcome back to the Bulletproof Daily Planning System. In this section, we're going to discuss how to easily follow through on your day's plan without feeling overwhelmed or scattered. A few principles are going to help us make our daily plan easy to follow and not feel overwhelmed. Now, like I said earlier, the idea of planning every single minute of your day is overwhelming and not sustainable for the majority of people. That being said, the idea of putting your task in a specific order like you would in a Google Calendar is still very important. So that's my first principle for you. Using the to-do list, I don't just want you to write the task that you're going to do in a random order. I want you to actually write it on your to-do list in a specific order. So it would look like this. You would say, okay, number one, script the video. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Then I'm going to read 40 pages, and then I'm going to do my 5-hour shift. This is a very simple habit to take, putting things in order, but it does make a huge difference because you've always got this direction throughout your day, right? You know that you start here, then you need to go here, then you need to go here, right? It gives direction to your day. The second principle is that the first task that you do should be the most important, hardest, most energy consuming one. Following your day's plan and not feeling overwhelmed is a lot easier when you've already completed the most important, hardest task of the day. Instead of just pushing it off to later and pushing it off to later and potentially not even completing it because of a lack of energy or time. So just get it out of the way first thing. All right, so take action. Place your task in order and do the most important one first. Welcome to the final section of the Bulletproof Daily Planning System, how to plan your days without feeling boxed in by building flexibility into your schedule. I'm a big fan of flexibility, and there's 2 things I like to do to keep my schedule flexible. So first of all, use time blocks. So each task on your to-do list should be given a time block. For example, task number 1, about 3 hours. Task number 2, about 1 hour. Task number 3, about 5 hours. So you need to kind of estimate how long approximately each task is going to take. And that amount of time is given to that specific task. Now, in total, these tasks, wow, what a voice crack. In total, these tasks should not exceed 10 hours. Right? So as you can see, task 1, 2, 3 adds up to about 9 hours. Now, you're awake for 15, 16 hours. So why not make a to-do list that fills up that entire amount of time, okay? Well, if you want to build flexibility into your schedule, that's the last thing you want to do. Let me explain. Imagine your daily plan as a bucket with blocks inside, and each block corresponds to a specific task. If I fill this up with blocks, then I've just removed any possibility of flexibility in my schedule. It's completely rigid. On the other hand, if I leave a bit of space in, right? If I only put blocks, time blocks that add up to no more than 8 to 10 hours, then what I can do is, if I want to, continue working a bit longer on a specific task and not feel bad about going overboard. I can decide to read a little bit before the next task. I can go drink a cup of coffee with my girlfriend before the second one. I can go to the gym or work on my daily habits from my habit tracker. You see how just leaving a bit of space creates this flexibility. Now, this does not apply to the first time block. Remember, the first block of the day is dedicated to your most important task. So you don't want to mess around too much with it, right? You don't want to procrastinate on it too much. You don't want to move it around to the end of the day. It should be rigid, but the rest, you should be able to move a little bit around depending on energy levels and how the day is going. Okay, so that's how you build flexibility into your daily plan. So take action, guys. Assign a block of time to each task. Combined, they should not exceed 10 hours. Use the rest of your time to complete daily habits, relax, and spend time with family in whatever order you desire. Welcome back. Welcome to the Adaptive Success Schedule. How to build a schedule that you can stick to long term by making it effective and sustainable. So the question here of making your schedule sustainable is extremely important. Consistency in the pursuit of your goals is genuinely one of your superpowers, so you better get this right. We don't do it, first of all, by planning every single minute in a Google Calendar. As I've mentioned a few times at this point, not a fan of that. We need a way to be flexible and have a way to enjoy our life and not feel like a robot. So what do we do instead? We're going to use our to-do list and a few principles to help us structure our week. So here's my method. I use a concept I learned in exercise science, which is the 80-20 rule when it comes to cardio training. So what this rule basically says is that 80% of your cardio training should be zone 2, right? So we're talking 4 out of 10 effort, steady state cardio, just like a quick walk or a light jog. And then 20% should be super intense, okay? We're talking like HIIT, VO2 max training, 7 or 8 out of 10 effort. So in practice, what this means for our work and our schedule is that 80% of your days should be a little difficult and 20% should be super hard in terms of workload. Okay, so tactically speaking, the night before, on those days, right, 5-6 days a week, you should make a to-do list that corresponds to a 3 or 4 out of 10 difficulty, right? A little hard. And then the remaining day should be extremely hard. We're talking 8 out of 10. You should look at the to-do list. It should make you a little bit nervous. Funny enough, today is one of those days for me. I am recording 2 modules. I'm going to edit one of them. I'm going to head over to the gym, and then I've got a 10-hour shift, right? So this is one of my 8 out of 10 days. So should be very fun. Take a day off once in a while. But what you'll notice is that with this method, you don't actually need that many days off because you're not exhausting yourself, right? Most days are, like I said, moderately difficult. So it's very sustainable. Here's why this is so effective. First of all, it's flexible, right? The night before, you can decide, okay, is tomorrow going to be a 3-4 out of 10 day or an 8 out of 10? And this will really depend on other obligations like your job, your relationship. Second, it's very sustainable, right? Obviously, if the majority of your days are moderately difficult, then it's not going to be very hard to stick to long term, right? But you also make great progress because of those weekly super intense days that force you to leave your comfort zone and basically increase your work capacity. It's important to note that what you consider a 4 out of 10 day, an 8 out of 10 day will change through time, right? Your work capacity will increase. So at first, a 4 out of 10 day for you might be you just go to work, you do your 8-hour shift, then you come back home and you relax all night. That might be a little difficult for you. And your 8 out of 10 might be you do your 8-hour shift, you come back home, go to the gym, and then work on your business for 30 minutes. That might be super hard. But every time you push yourself with those super intense days, your work capacity will increase. So at a certain point, a 4 out of 10 day for you might be you wake up 1 hour early before work, you work on your business for an hour, you do your 8-hour shift, you come back home, finish with the gym. And for you, that might be just a little bit hard. Now, to make a schedule sustainable, do you need to fit it into your lifestyle? You might have heard it before. To make it sustainable, you need to fit it in your lifestyle. Well, I'm going to teach you an important principle here that hopefully will answer that question. Most people try to fit their work into their lifestyles. Okay, I work as a personal trainer, and a lot of my clients, right, they wish they came to the gym more often, but then they fill their weeks with nights out, birthday parties, overtime at work, 1,000 other responsibilities, and then they try and fit the gym somewhere in there, okay? If you try and fit your work into your lifestyle, work being the gym in that example, then you're gonna fail. You need to fit your lifestyle into your work. And this might sound extreme, right? What about work-life balance? Look, at this stage of our lives, I'm assuming you're a guy in your 20s, work should be the main focus of your life. It should be at the core, okay? So does it make sense at that point to fill up your week with bullshit responsibilities and hobbies and then try and fit the work somewhere in there, right? No, it doesn't. Instead, commit to working on your goals every single day and then try and fit your lifestyle somewhere in there. If you don't have time for things related to your lifestyle, then you need to cut things out. Tactically speaking, here's how to implement this. Your time should be split between 3 different categories. First of all, your to-do list. So this includes things, tasks related to your goals, your job, school, anything that requires effort from you. Your habit tracker, right? So habits and behaviors that you should be doing every single day related to your goals or just your general well-being. Things like meditation, reading 15 pages of a book, counting calories. And then you've got your lifestyle, right? So this includes things like relationships, health, hobbies, things that you do for fun and that bring joy in your life. So here's how you structure these 3 categories to make sure that work always comes first. So first of all, your to-do list, right? Obviously the task that push you towards your goals should be prioritized over all else. When it's noon on a Sunday and you're working on your most important task of the day and then your girlfriend asks you to go eat a picnic, you need to ask yourself, okay, if I go to this picnic, will I be able to finish this task when I come back in the afternoon? If the answer is no, then you need to just finish the task and push the picnic back. After the to-do list, I believe lifestyle should come next, right? Relationships are important. Enjoying yourself is important. But only if you've completed your to-do list or you're on track to do so, and you can say you've made significant progress that day. Third category is the habit tracker. Right? Why do I put the habit tracker last? Well, honestly, if it's 8 p.m., right, and you haven't seen your girlfriend all day, she wants attention, just don't be the guy that says, oh, babe, I can't hang out. I've got 15 pages to read, right? Just don't be that guy. Ordering your time like this will make sure that you get a lot done without being sad and miserable all the time. So take action, guys. Use the 80-20 rule when it comes to workload. About 5-6 days a week should be a little hard. About once a week, your to-do list should be super hard to complete. Structure your time in this way. To-do list comes first, lifestyle comes second, habit tracker comes third. Welcome back to the Adaptive Success Schedule. In this second section, we're going to discuss how to make a schedule you'll actually want to follow by aligning it with your natural energy and priorities. So using the tactics and principles we've already discussed in this module so far, you should already have a schedule that you want to follow. But a really important component to wanting to follow your schedule that we haven't discussed yet is aligning your days and weeks with energy levels. There's nothing worse than coming back home from a long day of work, exhausted, and still needing to complete a task that you set for that day when your energy is at its lowest. That will not make you want to follow your schedule. A few concepts will help us here. First of all, do the most important task first. Right? So if you know that when you come back home from your job, you have no energy left, then wake up 1 hour early and do your most important task straight away. It's really about asking, okay, what is the most important thing I need to do today? And this will always be related to your goals. If you're growing a YouTube channel, then these tasks will include, scripting a video, recording a video, before you do anything else. On weekends, does it make sense to cuddle with your girlfriend all morning and then being forced to do the most important task of the day later in the afternoon when you'd much rather be doing something else, right? Going outside and doing activities. You'll want to follow your schedule a lot more when you get the most important task done early in the day, right? That way you're not forced to do it when you have no energy left. The second thing you need to do is match energy levels to task difficulty. So like we just discussed, doing the most important task of the day first thing in the morning makes sense because that's when you have the most amount of energy. But as your energy levels go down, you can still work. You just have to choose the right task based off of difficulty. So a typical day for me using this principle might look like this. I wake up, script a video, then I research video ideas, then I've got a 4-hour work shift. Obviously, scripting a video, like I said, is the hardest thing I could do in my case. And so I'm going to do it first thing when I have the most amount of energy. But then researching video ideas, I can do in the afternoon. It doesn't take as much energy. And then at this point, working as a personal trainer, right, 4-hour shift is easily done for me in the evening. So I don't mind doing it in that order. Let's say I did the opposite. I started with a 4-hour shift in the morning. Then I'd come back home, I would eat lunch, and then I would have to script a video when my energy is not at its highest at all. So just start being aware of how your energy levels fluctuate throughout the day and match task difficulty to those energy levels. So take action, guys. Do the most important task of the day first and match task difficulty to energy levels. Welcome back to the Adaptive Success Schedule. In this final section, we're going to discuss how to quickly fix your schedule when life gets chaotic so you stay on track without losing momentum. So if your life gets chaotic, as in you get super busy and you find yourself not working on your goals for like days in a row, then you need to really ask yourself, why is my schedule filled up with all of these things that have nothing to do with my goals, right? And if you've watched this module and the previous ones, then you should know what to do with your time. But if you still find yourself spending too much time on relevant things, then consider two things. So first of all, where could you save more time, right? Do you need to spend that much time on cooking, or can you just do meal preps and keep your meals real simple? Do you need to spend 1.5 hours working out, right? If you get a bunch of satisfaction out of the gym, then go ahead. But the reality is that you can get a very effective workout done in less than 45 minutes. Just be more efficient in everything you do. This will clear up your schedule. Now, the second thing is, what are you saying yes to? You're saying yes to overtime at work. You're saying yes to joining a soccer league. Should you really be training for a half marathon on top of the gym, on top of your goals and a full-time job? totally not speaking from experience here. Start saying no more often. This will prevent your schedule from getting chaotic. So take action, guys. Save time everywhere you can. Only say yes to things that significantly improve your life or help you achieve your goals. Hello, and welcome to the 6th module, the High Performance Morning Protocol. So, how to build a morning routine that sets you up for a successful day without feeling rushed or overwhelmed. A lot of people will tell you to skip the morning routine, right? Just wake up, go to work straight away. And it's funny because it feels like recently we were obsessing over the morning routine, trying to figure out the most optimal habit to just have the best morning possible. And then we kind of just like swung the other way and just ditched the morning routine and just started going to work like as soon as we wake up. So there's really a question now is, should you even have a morning routine, right? Should you just go to work straight away or have a 1-hour morning routine? Okay, let me answer. It's not a must. The morning routine is not a must-have. But here's the truth. A lack of structure in the morning can set you up for a bad start to the day. So if you often find yourself struggling to get to work, let's say on your days off, you wake up and then you find yourself scrolling on your phone or just like kind of procrastinating to get to work, then a morning routine might be beneficial for you. So now the question is, what constitutes a good morning routine? Is it cold showers? Is it visualizations? Is it affirmations? Is it watching the news? Here's the answer. I'm going to give you my own morning routine very soon, but first I want to kind of explain how to build your own. So in the context of this course, because look, if your goal was happiness and peace of mind, then a good morning routine would be, meditate for 30 minutes, positive affirmations, have a nice conversation with a family member. But again, in this context, your morning routine should help you focus and execute. So let me explain. For the focus side of things, your morning routine should help you reconnect to your life vision and goals. It should give you clarity on what you're going to be doing that day. It should, calm your mind and help you better focus when you actually sit down to work. So for example, a quick walk, just contemplating in nature, meditation, prayer, reading your goals, planning your day. For execution, your morning routine should help you wake up, right? When you're done with your morning routine, you shouldn't feel super tired. It should make you alert. It should energize you. It should get you ready to execute your work at a high level. So, for example, cold showers, exercise, coffee. Your morning routine should be a springboard to your most important task of the day. It should minimize time waste and help you get to work through a list of habits that improve focus and execution. Morning routines are as much about what you do as they are about what you don't do, right? So here's what you should avoid in the morning. Obviously, checking your phone. From the moment you wake up to the moment you get to work, you shouldn't check your phone a single time. Staying in bed, right? Just kind of like closing your eyes and staying there, half asleep. You either keep sleeping if you need to, or you get up. There's no in between. Any type of entertainment, right? Obviously, checking your phone, watching TV, not even socializing with family. Entertainment will make you procrastinate and it must be eliminated. And look, if you want to spend 20 minutes, cuddling with your girlfriend in the morning and you want to have a conversation with your mom, you can do that. But just like once a week, right? It can't be a regular thing because it will seriously affect your ability to focus and execute. So here's my morning routine. Now, I used to not even have a morning routine. I literally developed one for this module so that I knew what I was talking about, but I'm glad I did. So here it is. I wake up, make my bed, and then immediately go take a cold shower. When I don't take a cold shower, it probably takes me like 20 more minutes to wake up. So this short circuits the process of waking up, right? I love it. Now, while I'm in the shower, I'm also going to do about 20 squats. Any type of exercise is good to do, like quick exercise. I'm not talking about a full workout. Just some type of quick exercise that you can do, push-up, jumping jacks. It will energize you, make you more alert. Again, so far, these two have been related to execution. They're just there to wake me up. Next thing, I go outside, right? And I take 10 deep breaths with my eyes open while looking at the sun. This is mostly just to get some sunlight into my eyeballs, but at the same time, while I take these 10 deep breaths, I try to kind of meditate, focus on the breath, just calm myself, which helps me focus. Then I come back in the house, I make coffee, and I fill up my water bottle. Now, I like to drink a good amount of water as soon as I wake up because, you get dehydrated during the night. So you want to rehydrate. And a good reason why people feel tired in the morning is because they're dehydrated. So I just make sure I drink enough water. Afterwards, I bring my coffee, my water to my room. I head over to my list of goals and my to-do list, and I read my goals out loud, and I do it with conviction. This keeps me focused on my long-term plans. I read my to-do list, right? And then I just get started with the first one. I get to work, right? This takes me like 15 minutes from the moment I wake up to the moment I get to work. So take action, guys. Build a morning routine that optimizes focus and execution. Avoid anything that hinders either of these. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the effortless discipline environment. So, in this first section, we're going to discuss how to build a default environment that supports discipline so good habits become automatic. Your environment is basically a set of cues that lead to different behaviors, right? So, seeing your phone makes you want to scroll. Seeing a book reminds you that you have to read. So what we need to do if you want to build an environment that supports discipline is basically control all the cues that inhabit your space. So put simply, we need to eliminate cues that lead to bad habits and add cues that lead to good habits. That's what it means to build an environment that supports discipline. So let's start by removing bad cues. Okay, so ask yourself right now, what bad habits are preventing you from getting quality work done? Is it checking your phone first thing in the morning? Is it getting distracted while you work? Is it seeing your Xbox controller and being tempted to game? Figure out the cues that lead to bad behaviors and remove them. Our goal here is to sterilize our environment of any cues that lead to wasted time and distractions. Now, what about adding cues that lead to good behaviors? Well, I've found that the most effective cue that leads to positive behavior is the focus wall. I'll explain in a second. The number one reason why people don't stick to good habits is literally because they don't think about it enough. The focus wall, which is basically what I have behind me, is a collection of pieces of paper that help you focus on your goals and remind you of the daily habits and behaviors that you should be doing. So on there, you're going to paste your list of goals, progress trackers, affirmations, but most importantly for this module, your habit tracker. Now, I've already mentioned posting your list of goals and habit tracker on your wall, so this should already be done. But if you haven't yet, now's the time. Now, the habit tracker in particular is very effective for what we're trying to do here. It's a daily reminder of the habits that you should be sticking to. And every night you get that satisfaction of checking off each little boxes on your habit tracker, which supports discipline. If you don't know what to write on your habit tracker, then just go back to previous modules. I already discussed this in detail. The second thing, list of goals, just a daily reminder of what you're working towards. It promotes hard work and resilience. Any progress tracker, tracking things like, revenue, subscribers, time worked, it motivates you to keep going. I've got a progress tracker right behind me. And you can honestly add any other thing that you want as long as it helps you stay locked in and disciplined. Good habits become automatic when your environment is designed in a way that promotes good cues and removes bad ones. So take action, guys. Remove cues that lead to bad habits and build your focus wall, including a habit tracker, list of goals, and any other piece of paper with things that help you stay locked in and focused. Welcome back to the effortless discipline environment. In this section, we're going to discuss how to set up your space to make focus effortless, removing distractions without constant willpower. So there are 3 components to setting up a space that makes focus effortless and removes distractions. The first thing, people. Okay, people are a big challenge when it comes to working undistracted. The biggest thing, the most effective thing I found to fixing this problem is just to avoid them. So here's 3 things you can do to avoid people. First of all, wake up early. My girlfriend wakes up at 10 a.m. It doesn't even matter what time she goes to bed. She wakes up at 10. So what do? I wake up at like 7 or 8, and I get a few hours of undistracted work done before she even wakes up. Inversely, you could go to bed later, right? After your girlfriend or your family go to bed and get a few hours done then. The point here is just to get quality work done when everyone else is sleeping. The second thing is isolate yourself. So you've probably tried to work with someone else, your girlfriend, for example, right? You just say, okay, we're just going to both sit down in the same room. We're going to focus on our own things. We're going to still be together. It's going to be fun. It never works. You want to cuddle, you randomly start wrestling with her for no reason. Same thing with your family. I mean, if you do some work in the living room, your mom asks you for something, your brother wants to play basketball. So I've found that working with other people is just not practical at all. So what you need to do here is just isolate yourself. Go in your room, close the door. The third thing, be clear with them, right? So just tell the people you're with that for the next few hours, you're going to be working on something really important and they can't distract you, right? If you're clear with them, they'll usually understand. They'll let you work for a few hours. Next thing, your phone. Your phone is the biggest distraction in your life, okay? And honestly, you should probably just get rid of it and get a flip phone. But if you don't have the balls for that, no worries, I don't either. Then what you can do is use the 3Ds to a distraction-free phone, all right? So the first one is different room. Your phone, while you work, should not be in the same room as you. It should be out of sight and out of reach. That way, you're less likely to think about it because you're not going to see it. And if you do get tempted to go on your phone, you're going to have to, stand up, walk over to a different room. That extra effort might make you think twice about, scrolling. The second D is deactivate notifications, right? So your phone should not make a sound whenever you get a message. Okay, just imagine you're working hard on a super important task, and then you hear a buzzing sound. So now you're wondering who texted you. Boom, you're out of flow state. Your phone should not have that power on you. Now, turning off notification sound is obvious, but I also need you to deactivate visual notifications, right? When you go on your phone and you see the little app logo telling you got a message, what we're trying to avoid here is just checking our messages impulsively, just because you saw the little visual notification. So turn it off. When you check your messages, it should be deliberate. It should be because you said, okay, it's 7 p.m., time to check my messages. It should not be impulsive. The final D is delete temptations. I'm talking temptations like Instagram, TikTok, Tinder, any app that you regularly get an urge to check. Obviously, someone with TikTok on their phone is going to be a lot more likely to randomly go on there because it's pretty addicting. So just delete it. Now, the last two tips have been related to your physical environment, but I also need you to consider your digital environment, your laptop. So here I need you to download any website blockers for websites that you often use and often get distracted by. So in my case, I only use Unhook. It's an extension for Google that basically on YouTube hides my homepage, hides the video sidebar, hides even the comments, because I use YouTube for music. So when I go on there, I don't want to see like a bunch of videos because I usually end up clicking on one of them. So use any website blockers that prevents you from getting distracted on those websites that you use most often. So take action, guys. Avoid people while working, move your phone to a different room, deactivate notifications, and delete temptations. Download any website blockers that you need. Welcome to the 8th module, the Instant Action System. In this first section, we're going to discuss how to defeat procrastination in 2 minutes so you never waste hours hesitating. So I've found that using mindset shifts is an effective way to beat procrastination instantly. You can see the mindset shifts I'm about to show you as defense against procrastination, kind of like weapons that you can use when motivation is low. So the first one is all about realizing that resistance is like a very tall and wide but super thin wall. It's very intimidating when you look at it from the front, but if you just put your head down, run through it, you'll realize you can get through it very quickly. This makes starting easier because you realize your mind is lying to you, right? It's not going to be as hard, as painful, as uncomfortable as your mind is making it out to be. If you just, sit down, start working, within a few minutes, the resistance will be gone and you'll be good to work for hours, no problem. It's just about getting through that initial resistance, which is, very scary, but also super shallow. The second mindset shift is about realizing that the resistance you feel is proportional to the reward of completing the task. This is effective when resistance is particularly high. So for example, when I need to write a YouTube script, I feel a mountain of resistance to doing it. And the previous mindset shift honestly does not work because it is not a thin wall. It is a thick wall. Okay, I literally sometimes start working and 45 minutes in, I still feel resistance. And so remembering how good I'll feel when I'm done helps me push through, right? Because resistance is proportional to the reward. Imagine you had to eat a frog, but you were paid $10,000 to do it. You would say, okay, this is going to be horrible, but when I'm done, I'm going to get $10,000. In the same way, very hard tasks are followed by strong feelings of relief, accomplishment, and satisfaction. And this mindset shift is about focusing on those, not the resistance. The third mindset shift is about visualizing your competition, struggling with resistance, just like you are right now, struggling to get to work. If you could literally see your competition next to you on the couch, would you stay with them? Or would you get up, take the opportunity to get ahead of them? Of course you would. And that's what this mindset shift is all about. It's about realizing that, okay, everyone deals with resistance, everyone deals with procrastination, and when you do, it's your opportunity to get ahead of your competition. Every time you overcome procrastination, you're getting ahead of other people. And so this way of seeing things should ignite your competitive side and, get you to work in no time. The fourth mindset shift is about realizing that the universe is testing you. Between you and your goals, there will be a series of obstacles and challenges, things to slow you down and deter you from making progress. The universe has put these in place to measure how bad you want it. And guess what? The resistance you feel to getting to work, that's just one of them, right? So in those moments, you have the opportunity to prove to the universe that you're willing to do what it takes and that you're worthy of accomplishing your goals. So when you start seeing procrastination and resistance that way, you're much more likely to just say, okay, you know what? I want to prove to the universe that I'm willing to do what it takes. I'm going to get up. So the next time you procrastinate, use these mindset shifts. Some will be more effective than others for you. Just, pick your favorite ones and just use them over and over again. So take action, guys. Memorize these mindset shifts and use them to overcome procrastination. Welcome back to the Instant Action System. In this section, we're going to discuss how to make getting to work effortless using a powerful autopilot start method. So, if you always struggle to get to work and you find yourself procrastinating, your problem might be how you approach work. So let me explain. Imagine two different scenarios. In the first one, you wake up and you go on your phone, right? You need time to wake up. You need time to feel awake, so you start scrolling. Then you go in the kitchen and you start having a conversation with your mom, your girlfriend, your roommate, whoever you live with, right? You describe the dream you had. You tell them what you have planned for today. Then you eat breakfast in front of the TV. Then you pull out your laptop and you realize there's no battery left, so you have to charge it. Your room is too cluttered, so you have to work in the living room. And after 2 hours, you finally get to work. In the second scenario, you wake up and immediately get out of bed. You go take a 2-minute cold shower. Then you go to the kitchen, you don't talk to anyone, you make yourself a cup of coffee. While the coffee is brewing, you go outside just to get some sunlight, come back in, grab the coffee, go read your list of goals and your to-do list for the day. Start with the first task. Just immediately get to work. Let's compare these two scenarios. So the first one is filled with procrastination traps. Checking your phone first thing, speaking to someone, eating breakfast and having to digest, not knowing what to work on yet, not having your workstation ready. All these things easily lead to procrastination. On the other hand, the second one is designed to get you to work as quickly as possible. There are no procrastination traps. As you might have noticed, it's just my morning routine, the one I described in a previous module. But do you think I'm going to spend more time in the cold shower? Or do you think I'm going to spend 10 more minutes reading my list of goals? Of course not, right? There are no opportunity to procrastinate. I also don't have any decisions to make, right? Because I do the exact same series of steps every morning, and I make my to-do list the night before, so I already know what to work on. And so the first step to make getting to work effortless is to remove procrastination traps. Obviously, this doesn't just apply to the morning. We procrastinate at all times of the day. It's just about identifying what habits lead to procrastination and removing them. Let's come back to my morning routine. Not only is it devoid of procrastination traps, but it also serves as a starting ritual because I follow the exact same series of steps every single morning, so my brain knows it's time to work. This brings us to our second advice here. Design starting rituals. Starting rituals are a specific series of actions that you take before getting to work. So in the morning, this is obviously your morning routine. When I come back home from work, my starting ritual is sitting down on my computer, putting on some music, and getting to work. I don't eat, I don't take a shower, I don't even change clothes. It works for me. Just think about what you could do before each work session so that your brain knows it's time to work. Okay, so here's another example. You come home from school, you get changed into more comfortable clothes that you set up the night before. You make a protein shake, you turn on your work playlist, and then you start working. If you can do that every single day of the week, your brain will associate work with these steps and it'll make getting to work effortless. So take action, guys. When you know you have work to do, eliminate procrastination traps like checking your phone, getting into conversations, eating, etc. Design starting rituals for each moment of the day. For example, when you wake up, you need a starting ritual. When you come home from work, you need a starting ritual. Welcome to the final section of the instant action system. How to start working even when you don't feel like it by rewiring your brain for immediate action. So, what if nothing works? What if you use the mindset shifts, it didn't work, and you don't even have the motivation to start your starting ritual? In this scenario, you have a dopamine problem. So as you know, dopamine is the reward-seeking chemical of the brain. And when you don't feel like doing something is because dopamine is not being released when you think about the task that you need to do. So how do we fix this and get dopamine to work with us? Well, we need to rewire the brain so that the work becomes enticing. Because in those situations, dopamine is being released, just not when you think about what you need to do. Because what do you do when you don't feel like doing something? You do something easier, more pleasurable than the work you're avoiding. Stuff like video games, Netflix. Dopamine is being released for those tasks. And that's part of the reason why you don't feel like doing anything else, okay? So the first step here is to stop stimulating yourself. Close the TV, hide your phone in the drawer. The second step is to do something worse, more uncomfortable than the task you're avoiding. For example, a cold shower. Things like cold showers will change your perception of the task. It will literally have an effect on your dopamine system. It will make the work you're avoiding seem less intimidating. Now, important to note that whatever activity you choose needs to be worse in terms of intensity, not in its total amount of discomfort. Because obviously, writing a 10-page essay is more painful, more uncomfortable than taking a 2-minute cold shower. But the intensity, the pain per second is higher in the shower. The final step is to sit in silence, unstimulated, for as long as it takes. Your brain does not like boredom. So given the option between doing nothing and getting to work, your brain will start producing dopamine at the idea of starting to work, which will motivate you to start. So you remove the stimulant that's hijacking your dopamine system. You do something worse, more uncomfortable than the task you're avoiding, like cold showers, a quick intense run, a bunch of push-ups, and then you do nothing for as long as it takes for your dopamine system to produce motivation at the idea of getting to work. And that's how you start working even when you don't feel like it. So take action, guys. When motivation is low, drop what you're doing, take a cold shower or anything more uncomfortable than the work, and then commit to sitting in silence, unstimulated, until motivation appears. Welcome back, guys. Welcome to the 9th module, the Unbreakable Focus Formula. So, in this first section, we're going to discuss how to make hard work bearable. Okay, so you guys know I'm not a fan of the idea of feel-good productivity, right? Trying to make your work super fun all the time. The reality is that most of the time, hard work is pretty damn difficult and it sucks. But, that being said, if you can find a way to make your work somewhat enjoyable, you'll obviously have an advantage over other people who just hate it all the time. Okay, so here's how to make it bearable/enjoyable. The first thing you need to consider is the work itself. So let me explain. Let's say you've chosen drop shipping as your business model, right? That's how you're going to make your money. But you hate drop shipping. There's nothing I can really say and explain here that's gonna allow you to enjoy drop shipping. So the first step here is to choose a business model, creative project, a college degree that you're actually interested in, that you actually want to learn more about. In my case, for YouTube, I've always been a big fan of, producing videos. So to me, the whole process of video production is a very enjoyable one. So it's a lot easier to use the tactics I'm about to show you to make working more enjoyable. If you're still in school, choose a college degree that you actually want to learn more about. If you're creating a course, make it about something you're interested in. Okay, so once you've chosen the right work, then we can move on to a few tactics to make the actual act of working more enjoyable. So the first one is to use a timer. I ordered this timer a few months ago on Amazon. And this does is it allows me to kind of gamify the act of working. So I'll set a timer for an hour and I'll say, okay, I cannot move from my chair until the time is over. I gotta just focus. So not only does it make the work less intimidating because you only have to start with an hour, but you also get like a sense of progress and achievement. Every time I finish an hour, it's like, okay, another hour done, and then you just stack the hours. Once the timer is up, you can, stand up, move around a little bit. I just end up starting a new hour every single time. The next thing you can do is listen to work music. So you should have certain playlists that you listen to every single time, and not only is it a good work trigger in the sense that you listen to the same music or same few playlists every time, which kind of primes your brain for work, because when you hear it, your brain knows it's time for work, but it also just makes the act of working more enjoyable. I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings, and whenever I'm doing editing, that's my go-to. It's just Lord of the Rings soundtrack. It's like a 3 hours and 40-minute video on YouTube. It's got the whole soundtrack of the trilogy. And it genuinely makes it fun, right? I get good memories of watching Lord of the Rings when I was a kid. The music is just very good. So obviously it's going to make the act of working a lot more enjoyable. Next thing, have a work drink. So my go-to is just a coffee. I just sip on the coffee for the first hour or so. You can get an energy drink, Gatorade, juice, whatever is like enjoyable to drink. And then you can just sip on that for the first hour. It does add to the experience of, it makes it more stimulating, we'll say. And if there's caffeine in there, that's a bonus because you're going to increase your focus. The last thing is to buy quality equipment. So I'm talking better laptop, better chair, better keyboard, better mouse, whatever you're using. Now, obviously, you don't need to wait to have the best equipment to start working. You really just need a laptop and an internet connection. But if you can't afford it, buying a better laptop, a more comfortable chair, a more satisfying keyboard. This is a little mechanical keyboard that I bought for like $200 3 years ago, and it was a good decision. It makes working more satisfying. And to be honest, this is kind of the point with all these tactics here. Figure out a way to make your work more satisfying, whether it's be through a sense of progression with a timer, making it more stimulating, or just more comfortable with better equipment. Making your work more satisfying is kind of the key to make it more enjoyable. So take action, guys. Make sure you're working on something you're interested in and find enjoyable. Use timers, drinks, music, better equipment, anything to make the work more satisfying. Welcome back to the Unbreakable Focus Formula. In this second section, we're going to discuss how to keep working even when you don't feel like it. So let's say you've been working for 1 or 2 hours and then just suddenly you don't feel like working anymore. You're a little bit tired, you're hungry, and unless you've been working for 8 hours straight, you just gotta find a way to keep going. So here's how. So the first tactic here is to switch to an easier task. So whenever I come home from a long shift at work and I have to continue working on my YouTube, it can be very difficult to work on a challenging task because my energy is just so low. So I might sit down to do some editing and realize that I have no inspiration. And if I try to just push through, the work will just be low quality. So instead of just calling it a day, I switched to an easier task. And that's the first strategy. There's got to be certain tasks that are not worth doing when your energy is super high, but that are perfect when energy is low. So what I need you to do here is just match the difficulty of the task to energy level. So you come back home and like I said, you're exhausted. You can't work on something difficult, just do something easier. We kind of discussed this in a previous module, but this is effective for this point right here. And then what you do is you set a timer, okay? 30 minutes, 60 minutes. Okay, so when you don't feel like working, you switch to an easier task and then you set a timer. So now it's a lot easier to keep going because you've matched the difficulty of the task to your current energy levels, and you said, I just need to do this for 30 minutes. It's going to be a lot easier to continue, less intimidating. The second thing you can do, let's say you really need to complete an important task, even when energy is low. Then what I found as effective here is just to use a few mindset shifts that help me kind of persevere. So the first one is the crossroads analogy. So imagine yourself when you don't feel like working anymore at a crossroads with a bunch of other guys. If you go left, you stop working, you go chill on the couch. If you go right, you keep working, you persevere. Guess where the majority of guys are going, right? They have a goal, and yet they're not willing to put the work in. They decide to stop early. They decide to not do the hard thing. In those situations, it's your opportunity to get ahead of those guys and turn right. Keep working. This is going to be effective if you're competitive. Here's another one for competitive people. The swamp analogy. So this one is kind of similar. But let's say on the other side of a swamp are your goals. And you're lined up, again, with a bunch of other guys who have the same goals as you. And then you're trudging through that swamp. This is kind of like the work. The water is hip high. There's some weird creatures in there. You can't even see the bottom. You're trudging through. It's not easy. If you stop and turn back, aka stop working, then the other guys, they're not stopping, right? They're continuing. They're going to reach your goal before you. Okay, obviously in real life, it's not that dramatic if you stop working an hour early. But imagining it that way kind of fires me up to keep going. The last analogy here is asking, who the hell would still be working right now? So you come back home from an 8-hour shift and you keep working on your business. Who the hell does this? It's a Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Most people went out last night. You're there working on your YouTube or learning an important skill. Who the hell does this? This fires me up because it's a great opportunity to show how bad I want it and just to do things that other people are not willing to do. Okay, so when you want to stop working, use one of these mindset shifts and it should hopefully help you persevere. So take action, guys. When you don't feel like working anymore, either switch to an easier task and set a timer, or use the 3 mindset shifts to fire you up. Welcome to the final section of the Unbreakable Focus Formula. So, how to boost your focus instantly, even when you're bored or tired. In the last section, we discussed how to keep working when you don't want to. But what if you haven't started working and that's your problem? You're struggling to start working because of a lack of focus, you're tired, you're hungry, you're bored. Here's what you can do to focus and start working. So, step 1, cold shower. Cold shower would be best here, but just splashing cold water on your face is going to work. This is just going to wake you up and make you more alert. Step 2, eliminate distractions. So we've already spoken in a previous module about distractions, but obviously this one is the biggest one is your phone. Again, so just put it in a different room, out of sight. Step 3 is to prime your brain for work. So like I said earlier, this means listening to certain music that you always listen to while working. It means opening up a Word document or launching your editing software. There's really a bunch of options for you here. It could be take 5 deep breaths. It could be read your list of goals. Anything that you do every time you start working, just to tell your brain, okay, it's time to work. The final step is to set a timer for 10 minutes. So obviously, if you don't feel like starting working and then you set a timer for 2 hours, it's going to be very intimidating. You're much less likely to start. So just set a timer for 10 minutes after following these steps and say, okay, let me just sit down for 10 minutes. What's going to end up happening is you're going to keep going for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. All of these steps here are designed to move you from a state of not wanting to work to a state of being focused, which makes starting work easier. So take action, guys. Follow the 4-step formula to boosting focus instantly. Cold water, eliminate distractions, prime your brain for work with work triggers, set a 10-minute timer, and start working. Guys, welcome to the final module of Focus and Execution. So first of all, congratulations for making it through. I respect your attention span, and hopefully this whole course has really helped you. So let's finish strong. Here's the progress tracking master plan. So in this first section, we're going to discuss how to use a 3-minute evening check-in to build unstoppable momentum without feeling overwhelmed. So here's like a little method to build momentum through a daily review. So before going to bed, take your to-do list, and before erasing the tasks that you wrote for that day and writing the ones for the next day, just look at them and ask yourself a few questions. First of all, were you able to get everything done? If not, was it because your to-do list was too ambitious or you got distracted and wasted time? If you were, is it because it was too easy? That's possible. And then the last question, what will you improve for tomorrow? This process should not take more than 3 minutes, but it builds accountability towards your to-do list, because every night you have to face whether you've done your best or not, and you have to commit to small improvements every single day. When you don't review your to-do list every day, that's kind of like setting a goal and not tracking progress, just kind of hoping you're on track. Now, is there going to be something wrong with your to-do list every single day? No, but often, especially when you start. So here's an example of a to-do list that I made a few weeks ago where I learned a few valuable lesson. So here it is. The first task that I wrote was make outline for the next module. So basically just write the points that I was going to be discussing. It's actually the one you're listening to right now. Next, I wrote try new filming setup. So as you noticed, I've moved from my living room to my room. So I wanted to try the setup before officially filming my first video in here, just to see if everything was all right. I worked on my YouTube strategy. So not very specific, but I ended up just working on my brand. I watched a course and I took some notes. Then I had a 3-hour shift at my job, and then I wanted to finish reading a book. So when I sat down for my 3-minute review, I already knew what went wrong. You see, I ended up wasting a lot of time during that day and just generally not being very productive. Despite the long to-do list, each task didn't take me that much time or effort to complete. Because they were easy, I didn't really need to focus and really give it my all. So my mind wandered, I felt lazy. So when I sat down for my evening review, I wrote on my to-do list, just right under, a few insights. First of all, to-do list was too easy, did not require enough effort from me. In the future, I will always add at least one task that requires a lot of focus and effort from me. And this is something I encourage you to do. Write down the insights that come up, the answers to the questions I showed you earlier. Just write it under your to-do list. This will increase the chance that you actually fix your behavior. And then erase the whole thing and write your to-do list for the next day. So take action, guys. Every night, look at your to-do list and ask, was I able to complete all the tasks? If not, why? If yes, was it too easy? What could I improve in the future? Write down the insights underneath the list of tasks. Welcome to the second section of the Progress Tracking Master Plan, how to measure the right things so you always feel progress, no more guessing or feeling stuck. So always feeling a steady stream of progress is just crucial to sustaining motivation, but we need to measure the right things, or else your motivation is going to rely on factors over which you have no control. So how do we measure the right things? Let me introduce you to two concepts, input and output. So input is what you put in. In the case of a business, it's just the number of hours you work. So this includes number of hours worked, number of sales calls. You have direct control over input. Output is basically the results of the work you put in, of the input. So this includes revenue, subscribers. You have no direct control over output. It is a result of the work you put in. Now, the majority of people will tell you to only focus on input because that's what you can control. And they're definitely right. But only focusing on input would be missing a key part of the puzzle. Here's the thing. When people think about output, they only usually think about, revenue, subscribers, things I mentioned. But output also includes things like number of videos produced, number of pages written down for a book. These are outputs because they are a result of the work you put in, but they are still under your control. I can decide how many videos I produce this week, for example. So the key insight that you need to understand here is the different types of outputs. There are performance-based outputs, subscribers, views, money, and there are controllable outputs. So number of videos produced, number of pages written down for a book. So what do we measure? We measure inputs and controllable outputs. I personally like to measure controllable outputs more because it's just more satisfying, right? Because it's directly linked to a result. Number of videos produced, for example. It's more satisfying to track that instead of just hours. But for beginners, inputs are more predictable. An hour of work will take an hour of work. On the contrary, producing a video could take you 2 hours, could take you 5 hours. Hard to tell, not as predictable, but more satisfying. In any case, you're tracking what you can control. That's the key thing here. Unlike performance-based outputs, which are not under your control and could drive you crazy if you obsess over them, you can pour sweat and tears into inputs and controllable outputs because the results you get are tied to your effort. So the more effort you put in, the more results you'll get. So tactically speaking, here's how to implement this. So first of all, think about your main goal. Make a list of inputs and outputs related to that goal. For example, in my case, I want to make 100 sales for my course. The input in this scenario would be just the number of hours worked building the course. Examples of controllable outputs include number of modules scripted, filmed, and edited. And for performance-based outputs, it would be number of sales, conversion rates, stuff that you don't have direct control over. So at this point, you know exactly what to measure. Pick one input and one controllable output from your list, and then track these through your habit tracker, list of goals, calendar, or any other progress tracker. So let's say you've just picked hours worked as the input. Then on your habit tracker, you would track this by writing down work on business 1 hour. And then every day you'd check it off. For controllable outputs, you could use a list of goals. So for example, back in June, I set the goals for that month to produce 4 YouTube videos, to write 8 modules for this course, and to publish 30 shorts. Those are all controllable outputs. And through the month, I tracked the progress. I was like, okay, how many do I have left? It was a way to track progress with a list of goals. You could also use like a calendar where you commit to releasing YouTube videos on specific dates, and then every time you get it done, you check. I know all my examples are related to, not all, but most are related to YouTube and courses. That's what I do, so that's all I know. But hopefully you can like kind of make the connection with your own goals, and hopefully these examples are helping you. Now, whatever tool you decide to use to track your progress, you got to put it down on a piece of paper and stick it on your focus wall. You guys know how much I'm a fan of the focus wall, so you can see right here that I'm tracking my goal, make 100 sales, through a progress tracker that I've put on my wall. Make sure you can see it. So, take action. Make a list of inputs and outputs related to your goals. Pick one input and one controllable output. Track these using tools that you can visually see in your everyday life. Welcome to the final section of the Progress Tracking Master Plan. In this final section, how to turn tracking into a game you actually enjoy so you stay consistent effortlessly. In the previous module, I spoke about the importance of measuring input and controllable outputs, and basically ignoring performance-based outputs. That's not entirely true. There's really 2 things you can do to make tracking fun, and the first one is to track performance outputs. So hear me out. So my philosophy is that you can pour blood, sweat, and tears into controllable outputs because the results are tied to your effort. But performance outputs should be seen as a bonus, a little game. So how many subscribers can I gain in the next 90 days? How much money can I make for my business in 1 week? Unlike inputs and controllable outputs, these are actually fun to track. Just again, don't get too attached to the results because they are not in your control. The second thing you can do to make tracking fun is to use fun tracking devices. Things like habit trackers are very effective, but let's be honest, they get old pretty quickly. So instead, to turn tracking into kind of a game, get creative with how you track progress. So I've got 2 good examples behind me here. I've shown it to you a few times so far, but you can see like a progress bar for 2 different things, my course and my subscribers here. And just looking at these, it makes me want to make progress, right? It's just fun to, fill this out and imagine one day where I'll hit 5K, 6K, and then this whole thing is going to be just full of red. Same thing with the focus and execution course. Right? I mean, adding a bit of marker every single time I get a sale, and then moving up to 25, someday 50, 75. It makes it fun. It turns it into a game. I'm sure you can think of better ideas for your goals. Just track anything that you want to and just get creative, man. Get funky. Okay, so we've spoken about outputs, inputs, this and that. Here's a little summary to make sure everything is crystal clear. So here's another YouTube example. How fun. In the case of a YouTuber, the inputs would be the number of hours worked. The controllable outputs would be number of videos produced, and performance outputs would be number of subscribers, number of views, revenue. So the bulk of your focus and effort should go into inputs and controllable outputs, and then track performance-based outputs just for fun as a bonus. So take action, guys. Measure performance outputs with fun tracking devices. That's how you turn it into a game. And that's it. That's the 10 modules done. Congratulations. I respect you for, going through this entire thing. Tell me what you thought of this entire course. I really hope it helps. So send me a message. Tell me how it went. And I'm excited to see what you're going to accomplish in the next few months and years. Goodbye. Welcome back, guys. Welcome to the first bonus module of this course. So if you're watching this right now, it means you've actually been active in the community. So thank you very much for that. Let's get into it. So the Unstoppable Consistency Blueprint. In this first section, we're going to discuss how to make success feel inevitable. So there's really two things you can do here. First of all, you need to fully commit. So you need to decide right now that you will never settle for less. There is no alternative. There is no plan B. There is no, if this doesn't work out, I'll just do that instead, right? Fully commit. What does it look like practically speaking? Because it sounds good to just say, okay, no plan B, no alternative, but practically speaking, what does it look like? So I've got the goal of, as you know, selling 100 course for this course. Does fully committing mean that, let's say, for whatever reason, this course does not pick up at all, right? There is just no interest. And 10 years from now, I've sold 32. Okay, 10 years. Am I still going to be going at it, trying to get to 100? Probably not, okay? So I'm not fully committing to that. What about my YouTube? Like, let's say in a few years, things haven't picked up. I'm going to move on as well. So what am I actually fully committing to here? Well, YouTube, selling courses, that is all a strategy to reaching financial freedom. Remember the process we went through in the first module where we, figured out a bunch of I know that statements, we chose one, and then that's where our goal comes from. That's what you need to commit to. I am committed to reaching financial freedom. I'm not fully committing to the strategy. I'm committing to the source of my goal, which is the I know that statement. Chances are you also want to be financially free. So let's commit right now to financial freedom. Whatever happens, you will always work towards financial freedom. You reject any alternative lifestyle, whatever the opposite of financial freedom means to you. Getting excited for 2 weeks of vacation per year, stressing out about money, being stuck in a job you don't like. That lifestyle is dead to you. You won't even consider it. And so fully commit to your I know that statements, basically the source of your goal, right? So commit to having a healthy body, commit to being a great father, commit to financial freedom. Reject the alternatives. The second thing you can do is to focus on the process, not the goals. So again, this section is about making success feel inevitable. That's the second thing you can do. So instead of asking, okay, how do I reach my goal faster? Ask yourself, how can I become better at this? How can I become more disciplined, more organized? Anything related to the process of reaching your goal. And there's two things in particular that you need to focus on related to the process. You need to make it effective and fulfilling. If your process is effective and fulfilling, then you're going to stick to it long term because you're fulfilled by it. And you're actually going to make progress at the same time because it's going to be effective. Now, your process should already be effective because this whole course is literally about making the process effective. So it shouldn't be a problem at this point. Just follow all the advice I've given so far, and that should already be checked off. Now, the second thing we need to do is to make it fulfilling. Now, this could be an entire module in itself, but let's keep it simple. To feel fulfilled by the process, it needs to give you a sense of progress. It needs to give you a sense of achievement, and you need to gain status. So for progress, focus on input and controllable outputs. I already spoken about this in a previous module, but focusing on those two will make you feel constant progress because those are two things you can control. The second thing, achievement. Break down your goal into milestones. So let's say you've got this big goal that's going to take a year. Break it down into milestones so that you feel some type of achievement every single month or even every single week. The third thing is to gain status. Now, chances are, if you're starting this new thing, this new business, you're starting the gym, whatever it is, you're not going to get very much status out of it, right? You're starting from the bottom. So what I've found to be useful in this scenario is to increase your status through something else, somewhere else in your life. So in my case, YouTube gives me a sense of progress and achievement. It does not give me status at this point. So to make sure I'm not starved of status, I've gotten it from somewhere else, which is my job. So just to recap, you make the process effective by following all the advice I've given in this course so far, and you make it fulfilling by getting a sense of progress and achievement and gaining status. Two things related to this. The first one is going to seem a bit contradictory to what I just said with the status thing, but avoid anything in your life that satisfy these two needs. So let's say you want to start a business, but you also play RuneScape hours a day. Then your need for progress is already going to be satisfied. Anyone who's played that game knows like the progress is addicting as hell. In terms of achievement, In RuneScape, you can achieve like unlimited things, so that's good. You even gain status by leveling up, by getting better armor and showing off to your friends. So in that scenario, all three needs would be met, and you would not feel fulfilled by your business because your business would not fulfill any of these three core needs as a man. In that scenario, you would have to quit gaming, which would make those three needs unmet. And that's when the business could come in, satisfy those three needs, and make you feel fulfilled. So why do I keep my job if it's satisfying one of those three needs? Well, like I said earlier, YouTube satisfied my need for progress and achievement. My job satisfied my need for status. They pair beautifully. There is no like overlap. Okay, so in your own life, make sure that nothing is like interfering with those three needs. And if one of them is not met by your business, that's when something else can come in and fill that need. But if my job gave me a beautiful sense of progress, achievement, and status, then there would be like interference, if you will. That would be a problem. Now, the second thing to consider is you cannot polish a turd. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you're doing day trading and you want to make the process fulfilling. So, you start focusing on input, you set small goals, so you always feel a sense of achievement, and you also gain status, like you're the best day trader in your group of friends. But you hate day trading. Like just at the core of it, you do not like day trading. So whatever tactics we use, you're never going to feel fulfilled by it. So that's what I mean when I say you can't polish a turd, because you need to choose the right vehicle for your goal. If you don't enjoy the vehicle at its core, nothing we can do will make it fulfilling for you. So take action, guys. Fully commit to your I know that statements, not the strategies. Reject any alternative lifestyle. Focus on the process and make it fulfilling and effective. Welcome back to the Unstoppable Consistency Blueprint. In this second section, we're going to talk about how to prioritize work over lifestyle and unlock true consistency. This part of the module was originally named How to Achieve Your Goals Without Sacrificing Your Lifestyle, but that's bullshit. That's literally the opposite of what you should do. Now, I've already gone over this in another module, but I think it's worth stating again because it is very relevant to this current topic of consistency. Your lifestyle must be sacrificed to make room for your goals. I work as a personal trainer, and what I see very often are clients that say they don't have time for the gym. Why? Because they went to the movies, they had chores to do, their parents were in town. And every single day they asked themselves, okay, do I have time to come to the gym today? The answer was almost always no. They prioritized their lifestyles, right? Hobbies, relationships, going out, over their goal of getting in shape. And so instead of asking, how can I achieve this goal without sacrificing my lifestyle? The right question should be, what part of your lifestyle do you need to sacrifice to achieve your goals? And just think about it for a second. Your schedule is already full, right? You're already doing a bunch of different things. There is no like special void, empty space for this goal to just beautifully fit in there into your schedule. Your current schedule is going to reject your new goal. You have to make space for it. So now the question is, how do you sacrifice your lifestyle without burning out? The first thing you need to consider is what part of your lifestyle you should sacrifice. You need to keep the most important things in your lifestyle, the things that give you the most amount of pleasure and joy. So to me, this is the gym and my girlfriend. I'm willing to sacrifice the rest, and that's what I've done. In your case, if you want to prioritize running and watching the movies, then you can't go like on a bunch of dates every single week, and you can't see your friends every single Saturday. And if you think like, okay, I can't even see my friends, well, if you're running 4 hours a week and you're watching a movie every 2 days, then no, maybe you should choose your friends instead of watching so many movies. That's kind of the thing here. You need to choose the highest return on investment things in your lifestyle. So you need to ask yourself, what is a better use of my time? 2 hours watching a movie alone, or 2 hours with my friends or my girlfriend? What will give me the most amount of fulfillment, pleasure, joy, all that good stuff? So the second thing you can do is to simplify your life. Let's imagine a scenario. Let's say your lifestyle looks like this. You have a girlfriend, you have a group of friends that you see every single week, you visit your parents on weekends. Now you also have the goal of bulking up and running a half marathon. On top of that, you also play chess, you hunt, and you paint. Wow, that is one hell of a combination. I mean, a hunter who plays chess and paints, that. Well, I would really like to meet that guy. You need to simplify everything, because right now, this big bloated lifestyle is going to be very hard to give up on. It's going to feel like you're sacrificing a lot. So instead, simplify everything. Pick one relationship, one health goal, and one hobby. It would look like this. Girlfriend, bulking up, plays chess. You can't spread your time between a bunch of different relationships and hobbies and still work on your goals. That will lead to burnout. So take action. Pick the parts of your lifestyle with the highest return on investment. Get rid of the rest. Simplify your life. Only pick one relationship, one hobby, and one health goal. Welcome back to the third section of the Unstoppable Consistency Blueprint. How to stay consistent even when life gets messy, using a fallback routine that keeps you on track no matter what. So at some point, life is going to get in the way of your goals. You're going to have an unexpected expense and you're going to have to, work overtime. You're going to enter exam seasons and you're going to have to study a lot more. It is crucial in those scenarios to have a fallback routine. A fallback routine is designed to sustain a minimum amount of work towards your goals. Now, why is sustaining just a small amount of progress so important for consistency? I've got a little gym example for you here. You might relate with this. I see a lot of guys, guys in their early 20s, late teens, who train 5 days a week for 5 months, and then they stop. They stop for 8 months, they come back, try again, stop, come back, try again. And it's just on and off like that for years. Every time they stop, they lose their momentum and it takes a while to get back into it. What if when the motivation drops or they have less time, they just kept coming? Just once per week. That would be their fallback routine. It's just when I have no time for the gym, I come once a week. So fast forward a few weeks, they kept coming. They realized, hey, you know what? I've got time for a second session. And then for a third. And next thing you know, they're back to 5 days a week within 1.5 months. If you want to be consistent, it is so important to realize that sustaining a minimal amount of work is much better than quitting. You can slow down, but you cannot stop. So here's how to build a perfect fallback routine. So step one is to choose a minimal viable effort for your goal. So let's say your goal is to build a YouTube channel and gain muscle in the gym. So for YouTube, you might only have time for 3 1-hour work sessions. So you might literally have to go from 15 to 3 hours of work per week. For the gym, you might be only able to afford 2 30-minute sessions per week. That's your minimal viable effort for both of these goals. The next step is to give up one thing during the fallback routine. So if you've, cut back on your work, you're not training as much, but you're spending just as much time gaming, then you've missed the point. If you usually spend 2 hours gaming per week with your friends, you might just have to give up on that. If you spend 1 hour per day reading fiction novels, then maybe cut it down to 30 minutes. The point here is to remove something just to make space for your goals. Because remember, during a fallback routine, you're in survival mode. You don't have time for the bullshit. The third step is to decide how long you're going to follow your fallback routine for. When are you going to come back to your optimal schedule? A mistake I see a lot of people make is putting a pause on their goals for an indefinite amount of time. At that point, how do you know when it's time to start working on your goals again? Chances are you're going to get comfortable and you're going to stop for way too long. That's like my gym example from earlier. The guy stops working out, tries again 8 months later. Realistically, he had time to come back to the gym after like 1 month. But he got comfortable and then he waited and waited. Instead, when you begin a fallback routine, you need to decide how long it's going to last for. As a general rule here, your fallback routine should not last that much longer than a month. If you decide that your fallback routine is going to last your entire semester, I would tell you that your goals are probably not that important to you and you just need to find a way to get more done during that period. To build your fallback routine, you need to pick a minimal viable effort for your goal. You need to give up at least one thing to make space in your schedule, and you need to decide how long it's going to last for. So take action, guys. The next time life gets overwhelming, build a fallback routine following the principles we discussed. Welcome to the second bonus module of this course. Now this means you've participated even more, you've interacted even more in the community. I don't even know what level you have to be to reach this module yet, but it's a respectable one. So good job and thank you for being active. Here is the second bonus module, the unshakable self-trust system. How to build self-trust in 7 days so you can rely on yourself without second guessing. Building self-trust is absolutely crucial if you want to make progress towards your goals. If you can't set a goal, commit to certain habits, and have faith that your future self will follow through, then you're not going to get very far. Now here's the formula to increasing self-trust. Set a commitment, follow through, self-trust increases. You have to say you're going to do something, then you have to do it. That's how you build self-trust. At some point, one of my clients, he said, I don't want to commit to coming to the gym this upcoming Monday because I don't want to be disappointed. He said, I don't want to commit because I have no self-trust. I think it's the other way around. I think he doesn't have self-trust because he doesn't commit to the gym in this example. You see, self-trust is not randomly acquired. It's gained by setting commitments before you have self-trust and forcing yourself to follow through on them. That's how self-trust increases. So now what's a practical strategy to increasing self-trust? Now, most people would tell you to start small and progressively go up. They would tell you to, start with one push-up. Then the next day, do one push-up and make your bed. The next day, you just progressively going up. This is supposed to progressively help you leave your comfort zone, which is going to lead to sustainable change. The problem with this strategy is that it doesn't give you the necessary momentum to escape your old identity. So, for like a week, you might be able to add something every single day, progressively go up. But even after a week, you're going to feel that pull, that desire to go back to your old ways, right? Your old identity, the one without self-trust, without discipline. What we need is a method that will allow us to build so much momentum that we can just launch ourselves out of our comfort zone, which will lead to long-term change. Now, I need to warn you, this method is not going to be easy, but I do believe it's a lot more effective. And I've got a feeling you'd rather choose the effective method, even if it means working 10 times more. So here it is. We're basically going to reverse the first method. So instead of starting slow and just slowly building our way up, we're going to start super intense and slowly work our way down. So let me use two graphs here to kind of illustrate, to kind of compare the two methods. So in the first one, you start slow. You start with a easy amount of commitments, 1 push-up, 2 push-ups, 10, and then you slowly work your way up until you reach just maintenance, a respectable, good amount of self-trust and commitments. In the second method here, the reverse staircase method, the one I'm going to show you today, you start way above maintenance. So day 1, day 2 are very hard. This is not something you're going to do long term, but every single day it gets easier. And then eventually you reach the same maintenance. But what you did is you, instead of starting down here and going up to maintenance, you started up here and went down to maintenance. In the first scenario, maintenance is literally the hardest part of the process. This is the most amount of commitments that you're gonna set in this whole process. Now, in the second method, maintenance is the easiest. This is easy compared to what you did for 1, 2, 3 days. This part here, it helps you build a ton of confidence and self-trust so that the maintenance phase is super easy. Okay, so I hope at this point you are convinced of the method I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a 7-day process where we actually use this method. So for each day, I'm going to show you first the criteria, basically the recipe, the principles, because depending on your goals, each day is going to look different. So I'm going to give you the principles that you can then apply to your specific situation. So for day 1, this should be 10 out of 10 difficulty. By the end of the day, you should feel like you barely survived. Being a bit dramatic here, but it should be extremely hard. Now we're going to use the to-do list here. We're going to set commitments using the to-do list by committing to certain tasks related to our goals and a certain amount of work. So you're going to set tasks for the next day. You're going to follow through on them, and then self-trust is going to go up. So as I said, day 1, 10 out of 10 difficulty. On your to-do list, 10 hours worth of work. This includes your job, school, studying, business, creative projects. Also, 1 hour of learning, 1 hour of exercise, no entertainments. Here's an example of a day 1. You wake up at 6. From 6:15 to 8:15, you work on your business before your job. At 9, you leave for work. On your way to work, you don't listen to music, to podcasts, right? No entertainment. You don't watch YouTube when you eat. Nothing. 9 to 5, your job. 5:15 to 6:15, gym. Again, no music, no nothing. No entertainments. At 6:30 to 9:30, you learn. You watch educational YouTube videos. You read books on a certain topic that you need to learn about. At 7:30, you eat dinner, and then at 8, you're kind of done with all your tasks for the day. But again, no entertainments. So you go for a walk, you read, you get ready for tomorrow. Now you might be thinking, Lucas, this is what is this? This is completely unrealistic. Just imagine someone who's got right now no confidence. You're telling him to do this mountain of work. I know, okay? This is not supposed to be easy. Success, if you're actually chasing success, you need to realize as soon as possible how difficult it will be. So right now what I'm doing for you is setting the bar super high, and I'm telling you that's what it takes. That's what it takes if you want to actually achieve something of significance. I'm not going to tell you can just do, one push-up, make your bed, and that's going to lead to unshakable self-trust. You can choose to remain in your current situation. You can try and find an easier way, or you can just say, you know what? I'm willing to do what it takes. I want it bad enough. But guess what? After day 1, it's just going to get easier every single day. So get through the first day. Day 2, the only difference is that entertainments are allowed. So at this point, it should be like a 9 out of 10. But you're doing the same amount of work. You're doing same amount of learning in gym. The only difference here, again, is that you can listen to music, podcast, and then at 8 p.m., you can watch a little movie and then go to bed. Day 3, 8 out of 10 difficulty. The only thing we've changed here is that we've removed 1 hour of work. So instead of waking up at 6, you wake up at 7, you work on your business or anything else from 7:15 to 8:15. Nothing else is different. You can spend some time with your girlfriend from 8 to 10:30. We're going to go to bed a bit later because tomorrow we're waking up at 8. As you can see, at this point, day 4, this is Thursday. Day 1 was Monday. I should have explained earlier, but I've kind of assumed you started on Monday. Day 4 is Thursday, 8 hours of work. So now you can wake up at 8, like I said, and you don't need to work on your business or anything else before your job. Just your 8-hour shift is pretty respectable. So nothing else during the evening has changed. Day 5, 6 out of 10 difficulty. Still doing 8 hours of work. The only difference here is that you finally get a rest day from the gym. So at 5:15, you spend 1 hour and 15 minutes playing video games instead of going to the gym. Like at this point for you, this is pretty easy. It's compared to day 1, 2, 3. This is almost a piece of cake. Day 6, Saturday. So 5 out of 10 difficulty, 6 hours of work. So you wake up at 8, from 8:15 to 11:15, you work on your business, you go to the gym, and then you come back from 1 to 4, you work on your business again, you learn for another hour, and then at 6, you leave with your friends, you go to the restaurant, you go out, you do whatever you want until 11 p.m. 5 out of 10 day. Not very hard at all for you. Day 7, 4 out of 10 difficulty. Down to 4 hours of work. So you wake up at 8, 8:15 to 10:15, you work on your business. By 2 p.m., you're already done with your day's work. So from 2 to 10, you spend time with your girlfriend. Now, to you, at this point, this is easy because you've built so much self-trust. To some people, working 4 hours on their business on a Sunday would be pretty damn hard. But for you, you've built so much self-trust with those first few days that this is easy. The guy who started slow and just went up progressively, on Sunday, he's working on his business in the afternoon because he couldn't wake up early, and he goes to the gym. Like that's his day 7. That's his hardest day of the week. If you want to build true, long-lasting self-trust, then you have to challenge yourself. And the method I just showed you is going to build the type of self-trust that's necessary for success. So take action, guys. Follow the reverse staircase method for 7 days. Welcome to the second section of the Unshakable Self-Trust System. How to make follow-through feel rewarding and automatic. To make it rewarding, you need to track your progress. The most obvious way of tracking your progress is using the habit tracker, which you should already be using right now. Again, there are certain things that I keep repeating in this entire course, so maybe that should, ring a bell. But the habit tracker, at the end of the day, you check off the box and it makes following a certain habit, whether it be, gym or work on your business for 1 hour a day, it makes it more satisfying, more rewarding. Now, you can also be creative with how you track progress. So 2 years ago, I helped my mom take up the habit of walking 30 minutes every day of the week. So 5 days a week. And what we used as a progress tracker was basically 2 jars. One of them filled with marbles, 20 marbles in particular. She had to do 20 walks per month. That's 5 per week. And every time she walked, she would transfer a marble to the other jar. And the goal, like I said, was by the end of the month, they would all need to be transferred to the other jar. Tracking her progress that way made the act of following through a lot more rewarding. Now, to make it automatic, you need to make everything visible. There needs to be cues in your environment reminding you of what you're committing to. So your habit tracker should be on your wall. It should already be done. Your 2 jars of marbles should be somewhere where you can see them. Now, beyond your progress tracking tool, you should also have your list of goals visible, just to remind you of the importance of what you're committing to. Again, repeating the same things, you should already have your focus wall, which should be plastered with all types of progress tracking tools and your list of goals. Now, the last thing I'd like to share to help you follow through are a few mindset shifts. The first one is about realizing that the reward of following through is much higher than the comfort of not doing it. Following through on your commitments is much more satisfying and gratifying than not following through on them and hurting your self-trust in the process. The second mindset shift is about realizing that following through on your commitments is an opportunity to build a new identity. You want to be the type of person who works hard, who achieves his goals. You do not become that type of person by wishing. You do it by following through on your commitments. And so every commitment is an opportunity to cast a vote towards the type of person that you need to become. So don't focus on the task itself. Focus on how great of an opportunity it is to build your new identity. The third mindset shift is to realize that the discipline is the easy path. When you don't follow through on a commitment, it's probably because you thought you were choosing the easy path, right? You said, okay, I can either stay on the couch, watch TV, stay in my comfort zone, which is easy, or I can follow through on this commitment, develop this product, which is the hard path, right? It's going to be so uncomfortable. But it's actually the other way around. Laziness, lack of self-trust, lack of self-respect, those lead to pain and hardship. Discipline and following through on your commitments, those lead to freedom. Those lead to confidence. Doing hard things becomes easier. And that is the easy path. And so reframe your mind to look at following through on your commitments as being the easier option. So take action, guys. Use a progress tracking tool to make follow through feel rewarding. Use cues in your environment to make follow through feel automatic. As a last resort, use mindset shifts to follow through even when you don't feel like it.